Hello and welcome to Ethereum Classic Community Call number 26. Today is the 27th of September 2022. It's been a while. It's been a few months since we last had a call, so nice to see everyone back. It's been a while. We're now going to return to the weekly calls every Tuesday at 1500 hours UTC. This is a casual voice chat to discuss ideas about ETC, and everyone is welcome. You can find us in the ethereumclassic.org/discord server, and you can join us in the community calls channel to ask questions or bring up topics. This call is an open discussion, so please feel free to jump in at any time, but be reminded we are streaming live on YouTube, so please be on your best behavior. As mentioned, you can post chat messages in Discord or on YouTube, and we'll try to get to them. So now that we're starting a new batch of chats, I figured we should have a new kind of setup here. So we're going to have a more structured approach to future chats, including each week starting with some latest news headlines and an update of the apps ecosystem. And then we can, from there, dive deep into some more ETC-specific topics. So to continue, we will start with the news catch-up. And because we haven't had one in a while, we're just going to go through some of the major things that happened since our last call in July. So there was, of course, two anniversaries that happened. The hard fork, the DAO hard fork anniversary, which happened on July 20th, as well as the Genesis block on July 30th. So two major birthdays for Ethereum Classic. Ethereum Classic also overtook Litecoin in market cap, which put it at, I believe, 4th place overall. And then, of course, recently, the merge happened on Ethereum, which moved Ethereum Classic into 3rd place overall in terms of market cap of proof-of-work chains. So we'll get into that in more detail later. Another major update was that Antpool announced a $10 million fund that was in cooperation with ETC Co-op, which I believe future announcements will be coming about how those funds were distributed. But basically right now, Ethereum Classic has 4 million around in asset in USD for ETC Co-op, plus some ETC, the Antpool of $10 million, and of course the ETC Community Fund of 16,000 ETC, which in the future will be worth hopefully a lot more in USD terms. Before we jump into the new feature, the app of the week, was there any pressing announcements or news updates that anyone wanted to add in the chat? Okay, so moving on to the ecosystem update, which I think we're going to call ETC is a dead chain going forward, just as a kind of tongue-in-cheek to the prevailing so-called wisdom that Ethereum Classic has no activity, no developers, and apparently we don't exist because no one's working on it. So this week has had a few big announcements. One from Hebe. I'm still not sure how to pronounce that, but Hebe has announced a new desktop client for ETC called ETC Desktop, and I believe it includes a node. So it's a full node desktop client with a nice front-end user interface. It was announced today, so I've yet to play with it, but it looks very promising. ETC Co-op also announced the launch of Safe, which I believe is a Gnosis multi-sig deployment on ETC. I don't know if Bob wanted to jump in to explain a little bit about that. Or maybe he's just listening. There were also a few different apps added to the website, including, and I'm just going to list these out, and full disclaimer, none of these have been audited, and there's no official anything in ETC, so we're just amplifying these projects because they were listed on the website, basically. So we have Soy Finance, Fusion Nova Network, and USD Stablecoin. We have Classic DAO, Classic Heroes, Monkey Do, and some other NFT projects. I believe we also have from someone in the chat that helped develop a new network dashboard called etc-network.info. Would you like to explain that, Dr. Ignaz?
Ignaz, yes. Hello. Yeah, it's just a simple website. You can go give it a visit if you would like to share it. It's just a simple site which helps to navigate through my services, which I provide to the community. So it's all open source. Everything is on GitHub if you want to deploy it yourself or if you want to help. Always welcome developers which are able to help or just to support me in some Docker issues, or like brother also helped me to check some Bezo nodes and Hyperledger. Also Hyperledger Bezo nodes, so Get also. Yeah, just a actually simple site to navigate through the services which I provide.
Awesome, thanks for that. And once again, I've yet to dive into that, but I will be sure to check it out this week. And if you're around from now on, then please feel free to jump in on future calls.
I will definitely.
What is the website address?
I will send it to you. It's etc-network.info.
Oh, well, maybe you can post it on the general channel.
Yes, I will.
Yeah, and for those listening, all of these links and everything I mentioned in the agenda will be available on GitHub via the community calls repo, and also a link should be posted under the YouTube channel. So anything mentioned here will also be available there. And there was also a project called Chameleon that was announced this week from Rodin, I believe. And I don't want to talk about that too much without his presence, so maybe he can join us in a future call to talk about that. And also, if you check out the agenda, I've pasted a graph of DeFiLlama.com, which is basically showing the growth of the total value locked in the Ethereum Classic DeFi ecosystem. Now, up until March this year, there was no DeFi ecosystem on ETC, but after the launch of Hebe Swap and ETC Swap, we can see a noticeable increase followed by a little bit of lag, and then in the last 2 months in particular, a good amount of growth to the point where we are seeing, I believe, the beginning of a large upward momentum. So now let's dive into the main meat of this this call. And the first topic, of course, is the merge and the aftermath of the merge. There were many predictions happening beforehand about what would happen in terms of a flood of hash rate, and now we know basically what the outcome of that is. I should first mention that, as many predicted, a fork of Ethereum that is not Ethereum Classic has been launched called ETH Proof of Work. So Ethereum Proof of Work has been launched and has quite an interesting history, and whether or not it's going to succeed, I'm not sure. But in terms of hash rate, it's currently far behind Ethereum Classic. So I don't think there's too much to worry about in terms of either 51% attacks from this larger hash pool that doesn't exist, or any competition in terms of niche, i.e. whether or not this Ethereum proof of work chain is actually trying to be a decentralized smart contract platform, because based on action so far, it seems like it's not.
We should also say something about the price of Ether proof of work. It seems like, just looking at the graphs, um, it looks like a pump and dump. I'm watching right now. I'm watching the Polynex chart for Ether proof of work, and it had a big jump when it was listed, and that was all. It's now trading around $10. So it's really, it's really, I don't know, hard to understand what the future will bring for it. But it seems to me that everything was done in a rush. They've announced the fork like 1 month before the merge event, and since then I haven't really heard anything that was worth, I don't know, reading.
Yeah, it did seem like they really cobbled things together last minute, and importantly, they did not have a version of the client that was ready to be replay attack resistant until after the merge. So they lost a lot of pre-planning and smoothness of transition by launching a client last minute, and also because they incremented the chain ID, they've lost basically all of the network effects that would have come from maintaining the same chain ID, as was the case initially. Well, there was no chain ID after the ETC ETH hard fork until one was implemented later on. But at that time, there was not much network effect to get anyway. But in this case, the main benefit of Ethereum mainnet is all of that DeFi ecosystem, all the wallets, and all of the network effect that comes with that. And it seems like Ethereum POW has basically sacrificed that. They had no option really, but yeah, I don't see it as being any major threat to Ethereum Classic in multiple different domains.
And another thing, I'm not sure. Like, I was pretty busy for the past months, but I think after the merge there were 2 forks. Now I'm not sure if they are the same project or just some other mining pool who wants an Ethereum, or if they work together. I don't know. It seems just strange at this phase.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. It takes a while for the dust to settle, I think, after these events. But for what we've seen, I don't think we need to worry. In many calls ago, we were talking about what would happen during the merge, and this is a very big part of the SHA-3 debate. And the argument was that, hey, after the merge, Ethereum Classic is going to be saturated with hash rate, and that means the only viable thing to do is to 51% attack it. And as far as I can tell, there has not been that outcome so far. And it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case going forward, because currently Ethereum Classic is the apex predator of ETH hash family chains. So that includes, if you look at the agenda, I've got 4 major chains, including Ethereum Classic, Raven Coin, Ethereum POW, and Ergo. And I believe these are the major chains that have soaked up, or at least most of them have soaked up, the previous ETH hash rate from Ethereum after they sacrificed their proof of work status.
Yeah, I remember during the last calls, like there were many disaster scenarios, like really, really bad ones, and there was that agenda with SHA-3, that didn't happen. So I think everything is fine. Like the best thing is that ETC finally got the security it needed for people to start building and showing interest and making viable, unstoppable product.
Right, indeed. And I guess before we go into the implications of Ethereum Classic's new rightful place as Apex Predator, I believe there's some interesting implication or breakdown of what types of hardware are mining different chains. Does anyone with some mining knowledge could maybe you help explain the different breakdown in terms of ASICs and GPU miners that migrate to the different chains? Or if not, as far as I understand, some of the smaller chains got the majority, well, not the majority, but essentially Ethereum Classic got most of the ASICs and is currently kind of like Bitcoin in that sense, because the majority of those GPUs would be unprofitable to mine. So in a sense, ETC has become a lot more like Bitcoin in another dimension, which is that it's secured not just by GPU miners that can switch to any chain they want, but or not just any other chain, but also they could use it for graphics processing or VR headsets, for example. So they have other use cases and can disappear at will. But now Ethereum Classic has a much stronger mining base that cannot easily migrate to a different chain, and Ethereum Classic being the main one there. I'm not totally sure if that's the correct interpretation, as I'm not hooked into the mining community, but hopefully we'll be able to get some insights into that on a future call.
In general, it's what you say is most likely the case that ETC now has received most of the ASICs. Some ASICs should also be on ETHW, and there's another of these last minute ETH forks. This is ETH F. F is something for fair or so, which is even smaller than ETHW. So there might also be some over there. And all the computing power that went to chains like Raven or Ergo or Flux, these are necessarily GPUs because the ASICs couldn't make this transition. So all the increases we see there, they come from GPUs. And now the current situation is a bit difficult. Basically, the merge happened at, in a sense, the worst possible time, because the crypto markets are generally down, mainly driven by, well, first of all, it was already kind of a difficult situation with the crypto wind tensor, down, with a bearish market, and then all the bad news from mainly from the US industry came in, and with industry and finances, and which drove prices massively down. Basically, you can follow if you follow the Standards and Poor 500 index, and if you put next to it the BTC value, then the curves essentially match. And of course, all the crypto coins, they copy what BTC is doing to a very large extent. So you have a very strong correlation between any values in the crypto scene and the performance state of the US economy at the moment. So which means that there's basically no proper dynamic in the crypto market. So you see this effect, and but it's not following this correlation. Of course, the pegged coins, the stable coins, they obviously try to remain stable as they're supposed to, but all the rest essentially follows those trends. So what happens is then that all the crypto coins are performing very poorly, which means when you're mining, even if you produce the same amount of coins, you still get a lot less fiat equivalent value out of this. And then due to the hash rate increase after the merge, you produce fewer coins because the difficulty has gone up, so your hashes are worth less in terms of coins. And to make things even worse, with the conflict in Ukraine, the energy prices in many areas of the world have gone up a lot. And again, this makes things difficult for miners because now the energy costs are significantly higher, and most miners are sensitive to that. There are some lucky ones who have extremely cheap or even free energy, so they don't mind. But for all the rest, this can be a serious problem. So this means that the pressure on miners is much higher than we actually expected. When we calculated what the post-merge situation would be like, and I think this also explains why a lot of miners are not do not show up in any of the hash rates that we currently observe. At the moment, it's something like 75 to 80% or so seem to have disappeared. And this is more than, for example, what I would have expected. I would have expected maybe half of them would go away, and the rest would stay, which would have meant that we would probably see, well, most of the ASICs are, of course, they tend to be more power efficient than GPUs, even if only by a relatively small margin compared to the top-notch GPUs. But then it goes down to fairly inefficient hardware that is or was still being used for mining, and those weak ones that are not very power efficient, those would have been driven out in any scenario, basically. But I would have expected that more CPUs in the top segment would stay on mining. But it seems that this pressure also affected these, and may even have affected some of the ASICs. But there are also different scenarios of what those that are not mining now are doing. Some may simply have left, given up, because they already did the calculations and saw that this would not come back to profitable levels for them in the foreseeable future. Then there are those that are not profitable, and they decided to turn off their machines and wait. So if things get better, this can happen in the form of the difficulty going down, hash rate going down, difficulty going down, or it could happen in the form of the market recovering and mining rewards going up, or it could also happen in the form of energy prices dropping, and then they might join again. So there's an unknown amount of hash rate that could come back. And there are, of course, also miners who might only mine on certain times of the day. For example, if they have a segmented electricity tariffs, then they might not mine during peak hours, but turn the machines on during off hours. So you would see a reduction in hash rate. And when things get better, then they might increase the participation, or even switch back to full-time mining, and then you would also have an increase of the hash rate. So there's still a few unknowns, things that we can't see. But the general scenario at the moment is that the hash rate is now moving relatively slowly, which is good, which suggests that people have more or less found their places. And now there are more long-term tendencies of generally hash rate is dropping over time, but not at crazy speeds. So we don't get those big spikes and that we saw right after the merge, when lots of miners jumped on some coin that looked good, and then a few hours later they realized that the difficulty had gone up sky high or so, and then they moved on to another one, and this game repeated for a while. So these things are already over. So we will now see a more gradual convergence to a stable state.
Lots of interesting points there, and yeah, for the audience, just to describe the situation in terms of hash rate on ETC. A few months before the merge, I believe it was averaging around 20 terahashes, and approaching the merge, it gradually increased to about 50, and then immediately after the merge, it spiked all the way up to 300 terahashes, which is about a third of what ETH was normally receiving. And since then, it's kind of gradually drifted down into about the 175 terahash range, at which point it seems like a bunch of other chains have also reached equilibrium. So Ethereum Classic is still 3 times greater than its next rival, which is Ethereum POW. Ravencoin is at 16 terahashes, and Ergo is about 20, which is the same that it was before the merge.
Just a question for Wagner. Do you have any stats after the merge that some of the blockchains had problems after the merge? Like, did any attack happen or something like that?
I only heard about some double spend problem on ETHW, but that was essentially the bad what was it? Some swap or some swap contract or so. So it wasn't really a problem of the chain itself. I haven't heard of any major attacks or so. So yeah, don't know if any happened. I mean, there's all the small coins. I mean, to give a picture of the situation, we had Ethereum with its 900 something terahashes. Then we had Ethereum Classic, which had something like 20 a few months before the merge. And then we had all those tiny coins, which, if we now look at the total emission over time, that's basically the total mining rewards over time, then they were something like a factor of 1,000 smaller than ETC. And correspondingly, they had also much less hash rate. And so what happened after merge is now that, I mean, they were always at risk of being attacked because they're so small. If a chain has something like 20 gigahashes per second or so, then it's trivial to attack it. There are many miners who can do that. And the only thing that was protecting them is that either people didn't think of them being worth it, or they did the math and they realized, no, there's just not enough liquidity to make it worth the effort. And now there's a lot more hash rate going around, and so some of them are very worried about these problems just getting worse. And so we will see, for example, Expanse is planning to migrate to a SHA-based algorithm, and I haven't heard of others planning anything of that sort. But so yeah, there's people are aware of those things, but it seems that at the moment there are no new major problems after the merge. And of course, for ETC, the good news is now that, I mean, it was probably already before it was impractical to actually do such an attack, simply because even if there's a lot more hash rate in the world, it's not so easy to get control of a large portion of this. So even before the merge, when ETC went up from 20 to 50 or so, then I would have to say that at that point it wasn't possible to do it, because you would never find in the hash rate, even if it existed. And nowadays it's essentially impossible. I mean, you would have to find all the machines that are stopped or dismantled or whatever all around the world and position them against the network, and that's just impossible.
Yeah.
And so for the smaller ones, there are still risks. I'm not sure. Probably ETHW is also safe. ETH, not sure. They only have something like 5 terahashes that would put them in the range where a long time ago ETC was attacked. So that could be a possibility. And of course, the tiny ones like Expanse, Ubik, Callisto, they have always been in a difficult position. So, of course, they also have, some of them implement some of their own countermeasures. For example, Expanse has a very short chain organization limit. So with this, they try to make sure that that the 51% attacks that made by mining an attack chain offline and then jumping this on the network, that these can't really make major changes. And the idea would be that any exchanges or so would have longer confirmation intervals than this reordering window, so that you can never reorder over a distance that is larger than the confirmation interval. So yes, this is basically the scenario.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is like very great news, because we haven't seen big chains having problem after the merge, or let's just say the doomsday scenario aren't there. So that makes me really happy, and I just want to ask all of you, or who wants to answer, how did you guys felt when you see the hash rate going up to 300?
I was getting a bit worried when I saw it go up that high, because that was a bit more than I expected. And it was also funny to see some of the other coins where it even spiked more. I mean, again, one interesting example was Expanse, where it went into the terahashes range, which made absolutely no sense. And of course, it's basically half a day later, so it was down in the gigahash range again. And similar things happened with several others, except surprisingly, Raven coins stayed fairly quiet. So I'm not quite sure what made them ramp up so smoothly. But yeah, most of the coins, they had those peaks, and then things settled when people realized, okay, now there's far too much hash rate on this coin. There will never be enough mining rewards for all of us. And then they moved to other coins, and maybe some moved again. And yeah, now this, I think the great reshuffling is over. And yeah, now things look pretty reasonable, let's say.
Personally, I thought that the days after the merge for Ethereum Classic is probably the most important period in its history since the DAO hard fork, as it has solidified the chain as the largest proof of work smart contract platform out there. And that's a real accolade for the chain. And I think is going to have knock-on effects in the coming months and years that will be really proving our beliefs about Ethereum Classic. So I was extremely excited and proud that we managed to bring it to that point, and we fended off all the attacks that prevented us from getting there.
There were some good intentions along the way, but they didn't materialize. And I'm referring here to IOHK. So we can bring up the Twitter thing if you'd like.
Well, before we go into that, and kind of related to that is I wanted to talk about a counter argument to the main criticism of ETC, which has been pushed by both the Ethereum mainnet community and the likes of, I guess, some others in the Ethereum post-Ethereum Classic space, I guess, or those that rage quit the space, and that is that Ethereum Classic is a insecure zombie chain. Basically, it can be easily 51% attacked, and there's nothing being built on it, so you might as well just ignore it and pay it no attention, basically.
Are these
Now
sorry, are these Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash holders?
Probably not. I think it's mostly coming from people and or communities that might feel threatened by the rise of Ethereum Classic. And it's basically just a meme that's put out there to dissuade new adoption for Ethereum Classic and to say, hey, ignore them, come to us. And this has been around for a while, but it's been re-amplified recently by various different events that we'll get into next. But basically, my response to this insecure zombie chain theory is that now Ethereum Classic is neither insecure nor a zombie chain. It has both security and applications being built on it. And basically now that the possibility of 51% attacks are extremely low, over time this is going to mean that dev confidence will grow. This will create a snowball effect of adoption. Basically, more apps, more users, more transactions, higher value to the network and the underlying currency, which means more mining rewards, which in turn means more hash rate, more security, and then that feeds back into itself, into more developer confidence and more applications. So basically, I believe that we're entering this new chapter, which is basically a snowball effect of Ethereum Classic being the dominant proof of work chain and increasing confidence and tying that back in, and basically a positive feedback loop of adoption, security, price increase, etc. Specifically, DeFi swaps and the DeFi ecosystem kind of relies on not having 51% attacks. Additionally, exchanges can reduce their confirmation times, and people will realize that, oh shit, this is actually the real deal now. So far from being a sinking ship or a dead horse or any of the other kind of low effort attacks against ETC, I believe we're about to disprove all of those. And for everyone that's been in it for the long run and saw that potential, then I think we're about to witness that come to fruition.
I totally agree there. Everything you said, it's right. I gave it a thought about why they are suddenly attacking again ETC socially, and one reason that I find was that they know that ETC doesn't have a public figure like other chains have, right? And it's too decentralized to respond in a way that will propagate, and I think this is they know ETC can't defend itself publicly very well, and they just throw a punch just to see what happens.
Well, yeah, and one of the ironies of the dead horse sinking ship undead zombie chain meme is that all that it does is temporarily suppress the interest and price of ETC and filters the ETC community into those who are able to spot bullshit, or at least not follow the first thing that people are told. So really, they're helping us in the long run, because it means that we get a good community of people that are willing to look past the noise and actually investigate stuff. And when they realize, oh, that was a lie, and eventually that lie will be proven to be a lie, then they're going to have egg on their face, and we're going to have a community of strong people that don't fall for bullshit, basically.
Yeah, long term it'll matter more, and people who will really start to understand crypto, like let's say in 2 years or 4 years, the 2020 wave will actually be a lot smarter about investing in cryptocurrencies, and they will carefully look at the projects, and they'll see our history and the things that got us here.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's much more to talk about on this topic of basically Ethereum sacrificing its position and giving us a really big present. And I think, especially with recent events, and I didn't mention this before, but the whole Tornado Cash thing potentially points to a future where chains that are not fully decentralized, capturable, will become captured. And if we want a system that's able to be used by every person and not just one group of people, then the system needs to be neutral and uncapturable. And eventually, I hope people will recognize that goal. Before we move on to the next topic, I just wanted to flag an interesting point that was raised in the last mini discussion about maybe we can talk about this in a future call, but it'd be interesting to think about the different scenarios in terms of global energy price and whether that's going to actually be beneficial for ETC by forcing mining hash rate to disperse more geographically, or will it be a bad thing? And I think that's just a very interesting topic to explore in the future. But yeah, speaking of drama and attacks against ETC, we have to mention the recent Twitter, I'll say, debacle that's unfolding between basically. So I'll try and explain this as briefly as possible, but essentially the verified Twitter account that was previously and is still controlled by IOHK has kind of gone rogue, and based on some recent concerning tweets from the director of IOHK, Charles Hoskinson, it seems like the Twitter might be in jeopardy. So that verified Ethereum Classic Twitter account, eth_classic is the verified account, may soon be, quote, repurposed for some other reason. And I don't know if I don't know if it's wise to get into too much of the drama, but basically that's the bird's eye view. If anyone wants to add something to it, feel free, and then we can discuss the potential solutions to that. Well, I also should mention one important detail, and that is a recent tweet by Chuck SRQ, which basically explains that the original Twitter account was a donation to Charles under the idea that he would be a good custodian of the account and, you know, serve the Ethereum Classic network by holding on to it. And if that changed, it seems only right that that responsibility is handed to someone else that actually wants to promote Ethereum Classic. And as far as I've seen on Twitter, the current custodian doesn't believe that Ethereum Classic has a future. So it seems kind of strange that they're in control of that account. And if it does change radically, I don't know what the options are in terms of Twitter as a company helping us either remove the verified status or change ownership of that account. But it seems like a bad idea to have someone that's actively hostile to the network in control of the only verified Twitter handle.
Regarding Chuck's tweet, I think this just shows how, let's not say a bad word, but um, it just shows how low can Charles Hoskinson go regarding that Twitter handler. It's clear he didn't had really good intentions regarding ETC because he might saw it as a competitor for Cardano, and it's clear he just wants to, I don't know, damage ETC and just holding that account hostage and controlling it. It only proves what a crypto douchebag he is.
Well, I don't really want to comment on individual personalities, but it's clear that he's not currently that interested in Ethereum Classic, and actually beyond that kind of hates it, I think, and is trying to prevent people from joining it. I mean, in a recent tweet, he said basically he thinks that Ethereum Classic, and by extension those who are contributing to it, are unethical. And that's quite a strong word to use. I think most people in the blockchain space, apart from outright scammers, are trying to do their best for a greater good. And in the case of ETC, I think he knows that a lot of people are here for something other than just, as he says, dumping on new followers. So I think that's a kind of low blow. I'd also mention that Charles was also promoting a project called Ergo, which we mentioned previously, which is a proof of work smart contract platform that does compete with Ethereum Classic. And it seems like there's no official endorsement from IOHK of this project, but there's a lot of ex-IOHK developers and connections there. So it seems like maybe behind the scenes there is some actual financial incentive for some people to try and make ETC no longer a thing as a rival chain.
The other interesting thing about Hoskinson's criticism is that the argument that ETC is bad or a zombie chain, etc., it's because it doesn't have innovation. So he's still insisting on this innovation theme. And also the other thing that he said is that it didn't have funding, or that it didn't implement the treasury, and that's why ETC was going to remain weak. So he's using old, flawed arguments, I think.
Right, and we've been having this debate for a while, especially during the last few years. The treasury debate was an open conversation, and if he wanted to engage that debate, he had every opportunity, but apparently decided not to. So it seems strange that if he really believed what he was saying, he wouldn't be willing to back up his arguments and engage the community to try and convince people he's right. So it's a shame that didn't happen. And it's a shame that it's had to come to this.
Yeah, the two times recently that he attacked ETC, is what he says has a little, he has like some expansion over the media, no? Every time he does that, I see on my YouTube, when I go to YouTube, that there's like 5 or 6 other YouTubers that repeat what he says. And then there's several blogs and websites, that news websites that repeat what he says. So it has some effect. Like WP said, sometimes the price goes flat when he says that. So yeah, he's also attacking others. He was attacking Luna. He was fighting with people from Ethereum. So he seems to be at the defensive. He said something like, "I don't understand why people are paying attention to these other chains and not Cardano," something like that. He seems to be nervous about competition.
Well, I think having mentioned it now, I think the best thing for us as a community to do, this is just my opinion, everyone's free to do what they please, but personally, I'll probably be closing the book on this and trying to just ignore as much as possible until we get a decent solution. And we are trying to couple one together right now called Twitter Together. And this is an alternative community managed Twitter account that has the potential to replace the current centralized, hostile controlled Twitter account. Essentially, there is a new repository in the Ethereum Classic GitHub called Twitter-Together, which is a fork of a project where basically, based on pull request and moderation via GitHub, we can try to decentralize the tweet producing process. And it's currently very experimental. We're just trying to play around with different workflows and coming up with some set of rules to help us define which tweets get tweeted. But basically, the etc_network Twitter account is going to be controlled and is currently controlled by this GitHub repository. Now we are, of course, as a new project and running into some teething problems, largely based on deciding what kind of tweets get tweeted. And there's many different opinions from different community members about what kind of content should be tweeted. If anyone feels like they would like to contribute to this project, if you're listening now, please feel free to reach out, because we are looking for ideally 24/7 coverage in terms of maintainers that are able to approve tweets to this channel, to this Twitter account. And that would mean having multiple different time zones covered, and maybe a handful, 5 or 6 constantly available people to be able to approve tweets if needs be. Currently, we're also looking for contributions in terms of creating a set of rules. And I think that based on the strong opinions of various different contributors, it seems like the best approach might be to have multiple Twitter accounts, so that instead of having just one where everyone kind of argues about what gets tweeted, we have, say, 3 different accounts, one being just pure, completely neutral announcements, one being announcements plus potential applications and ecosystem updates, and third being kind of posting memes, maybe a bit of banter and that kind of thing. But that's just a currently undocumented potential approach that I'd love to hear your thoughts on. And the idea is that the main account is not sullied by any kind of promotional activities, but other accounts can be because they are clearly labeled as such. So if anyone had anything to contribute on this topic, please do jump in.
Well, for me, I'm also a trader, so if you will ever consider having a Twitter account regarding trading, charts, and I don't know, trading is one of the main things for coins. So if you will ever consider, I can participate. Yeah.
In terms of content, I think that there's two topics that have traction and engagement on social media, but they are two topics that usually accounts that are more institutional prefer to avoid. No, one is market and trading and price action, and the other one is politics. No, the theme of blockchains. No, that we disintermediate banks, that central banks are bad, and the cryptocurrencies are good. That regulation is bad, and capital controls are bad, etc. So they are controversial because they can make an account not less attractive, but biased. And usually we want community accounts or institutional accounts to be more neutral. But I think to have a of the general flow of tweets, to have some about price, not necessarily making technical analysis or price predictions, but at least being happy when the price is up and announcing it. No, one day we wake up, happens every now and then that we wake up and ETC is suddenly 15% up. I think that is worth tweeting about in this community account. Not risking a price opinion, like saying, okay, it's going to be at 1,000 like I do. But I think it's good to talk a little bit about price, and also because price is a genuinely important data point in a blockchain. No, like you said, Istora, as price goes up, mining is more profitable, so hash rate goes up, so it affects security, so more developers want to come. No, so I would do that, and then in politics, I would do maybe not be totally confrontational with governments, but at least say fiat money is inflationary, ETC is digital gold, hard money, stuff like that, regulation, or if there's a controversy like in Ethereum about privacy and attack on privacy in an app there, take a position, a political position, no? So, and I think that these two topics, politics and price, are really increase engagement.
Regarding price, we can also see a lot of news popping from different websites that basically make predictions or trading analysis. So there is a lot of content that can be shared with on social media with people.
Yeah, I agree with the points raised here. Hopefully we can recruit, once we nail down this new system which is going to probably take a couple of months, including some code updates that are coming upstream. Basically, it would be nice to get a dedicated channel put together for tweet creation to make it easy for creators that are good at tweeting to submit content rather than having to do their own pull request, or some workflow to make that a lot easier.
Yes, if we can keep it simple, that would be just great. I'll also try to see if we can parse it on Discord and have a separate channel just for the Twitter.
Yeah, that'd be great. And it might just be a case of getting people to learn the format of the tweets and then pasting in like a code block with the exact tweet they want, and then we can automatically create a pull request from that potentially if it receives some kind of upvote in the Discord. I'm not sure how we can do it, but there's many approaches. Okay, and unless there's any other additional comments on this Twitter together / Twitter drama, then we can move on to the next topic.
Just one last thing, we should also see if we can reach out to dApps developers, and once we have something in place, like ask them to participate for everybody's benefit eventually.
Could you explain what you mean there? How to participate?
For example, let's say Hebe, the Hebe team, they can also submit tweets, right? For if they see etc in a way, or if they want to share some big news like they did today. So just trying to keep this handler as open as possible and with a broader participation.
Right, and while I have this in mind, one of the potential workflows we could do is that as soon as a new app gets added to the main website, then that could also be created a tweet out of, which would incentivize contributions to the website and also link people to the website, including the full disclaimer that would otherwise be missing if it was just a retweet or might be seen as an endorsement. So I think that might be a nice way to promote new projects without being seen as being particularly biased.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We can also do that for news.
That's true. In fact, we probably should. The only difference is the link to the website for an application actually has its own URL, whereas the new news items are just external links. So there isn't like a link that you could link to the website to the news. So I'm not sure how that would work for news unless it was a blog post. But I'll definitely make a note of that for the next topic, which is updates on the website. And now that some of our developers have more free time in the coming months, there's going to be a new round of updates coming to the website. There's already a new project Kanban, which has lined up all the tasks that are hopefully going to be completed in the coming months. The main one being restructure of the apps and services section, because they're a bit kind of arbitrarily separated at the moment, and it's difficult to make it clear when new services are added for things like exchanges and wallets. So the idea is that all of those things are going to be merged into one kind of collection. So it will be more like an app store for everything, including apps and wallets and exchanges and like dashboards for network monitoring and that kind of thing. And yeah, if anyone has any ideas of improvements to the website, we are all ears, and you know where to reach out. I should also mention that internationalization is on the table, and as it was before, hopefully we'll be able to get this done this time before we have to take another break.
Bob was mentioning translation into Chinese, so that's a great idea and a must-have. And maybe after it, we can look over world adoption and see which countries are the most interested in cryptocurrencies, and maybe decide if any language in particular needs to be used to translate the content.
Yep, that's there's actually already in place a system. It's really just screwing in the last bolt, and then everything should be good to go.
Great.
So we are on the final. Well, we've reached over an hour, so there were some additional topics if time, but maybe we can cover those in a future talk, a future chat. If there are any burning issues, free talk. The floor is open as usual, and if not, we will wrap things up. Just checking the chat here, and Crypto Alex USA has mentioned that he's taking his farm offline for the month of October. He mostly has RX 580s and R5700 GPUs. I'm guessing as a GPU miner, it's difficult to be profitable on ETC at the moment. And he also mentioned that he would be able to contribute in terms of mining content for the ETC community Twitter channel, as well as content covering projects, NFTs, and dApps. So yeah, final call for any last comments, and if not, we'll wrap it up. Well, thank you for joining us for this community call. It's been a contentful one, so we hope to see you next week, same time, same place, for Ethereum Classic Community Call number 27. So see you next week. Thanks for joining. Take care and goodbye.